under the MRB Interchange Knowledge Hour initiative. As I mentioned to you the last time, today's session features two papers. Actually, you can say one paper and a half in a way. And why the second one, second paper is sort of a half or a short paper, Hemant will let you know as to why it is so. And the main paper today, which will be the first one, is from our Kantar World Panel from IMRB. And the paper is titled Passing the Buck. And it won actually the Global Mondelez Business Insights Awards for 2014. Now let me have the pleasure of introducing you to the chairperson today, who is Hemant Mehta. Hemant has been a good friend, Hemant. And he heads our media and retail unit. He also oversees the Kantar World Panel and IMRB in a way. He holds a bachelor's degree in agricultural engineering and a master's degree from Narsi Munji Institute of Management Studies in Mumbai. He has over 25 years of experience, and in a month's time I understand that he will be completing actually 26 years in IMRB. Well, he is one of the examples of those who actually rose from a research executive, that's a designation at that time, to a full unit head. That was a few years ago. Now, he has vast experience in media and panel research, and he has set up household panels and other panels in a number of countries within the Kantar worldwide groups, companies. Now, a few things about Hemant, which one thing about most of you may know about. One is he loves, loves peanuts. He loves beer, obviously, and seafood. All of you know about it, I would understand. And what you may not know about Hemant is that he loves collection of anything apparently. I mean, he loves collection of matchboxes, paintings, terracotta stuff. And when he was a child, this habit started, and then that time he used to collect erasers and sharpeners and you know what. I mean, now don't ask me, Hemant, where I got this information from. Now, all over to you, Hemant. You can start it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Raja, for embarrassing me thoroughly. But that's Raja for me. I mean, I can't expect anything better from him. Okay, great to be here.
Hemant, you'll have to speak a bit louder if you can.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Raja. I'm sorry for starting late, but today I feel really great that you got two very interesting papers. Because it is my team, one paper, but what's interesting about the presentation that we are going to go through is that it's a paper where we've actually not done any primary research, and it showcases how we can answer clients' questions from the existing and continuous behavior data. It's going to be presented by Muzammil Wagle. Muzammil is in our team in IMRB Kantar World Panel based in Mumbai. He's an insights director. What you can't see is Muzammil, but what I'm going to describe you is completely at variance when you see him. Muzammil is a tiny little guy, but he believes that he is Avengers, and he loves the comics, and he actually believes that he's one of those characters. So we're going to see how the Superman is now going to give the insights, which actually, to quote the Kantar Global Account Director, made the senior management at Mondelez sit up and realize what value Kantar can bring. So over to you, Muzammil. You've got about 20 minutes. Yeah? Thanks.
Well, thank you, Hemant, for that really lovely introduction, considering the Avengers and superheroes. And also, good afternoon to everyone. And thank you for really being present here, taking time out of your best schedule. The paper that I would be presenting today is based on an actual business issue that...
Muzammil, can you speak a bit louder? I think there are people who have logged on from a number of places. I think it will be better if you come a little closer.
So is it?
Increase the volume of your instrument, the microphone.
Okay. Is that better?
Can other places, Delhi, if you all can hear him loud and clear, I'm okay.
No, I think it's even worse, Muzammil. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, Muzammil, you'll have to be louder or closer to the handset.
I'm like, it's almost in my mouth, yeah.
Sorry for that. Is it possible for you to take the handset maybe?
Yeah.
Don't swallow it, but otherwise speak a bit louder.
Okay, I'm just going to speak up and I'll try my best to be loud all the time, yeah?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So like I was saying, this was actually a paper that we presented to the client, and it was one of the business issues that they faced. And this was later submitted at the Business Insights Award competition held by Kantar, where we won in the business optimization category over there. As the title of this paper suggests, we were actually successful in evaluating and optimizing spend on promotions for our clients. And we managed to do this using only the household database, as Hemant had earlier mentioned. Now, since the household panel was used extensively in the study, and for the benefit of those that might not be using the panel for research, we have a brief introduction of the panel, its methodology, and key information areas that it covers. Now, in India, we have a panel of about 79,400 households, which is one of the largest in the world, actually, covering about 131 urban towns and 687 rural villages. A consumer panel is a permanent, syndicated, and representative sample of consumers who provide ongoing details of FMCG's goods that they purchase, and each panel member records the details of every item that they purchase. We collect the data every month from these households, and the respondent for all panel data collection is the housewife, since she is obviously the most aware of the purchases that are made in a household. These are some of the categories that we really capture in panel, 97 in all. This includes the food and beverage space, the home care space, and the personal care space. So some of the categories like biscuits, breakfast cereals, your toilet soaps, your washing powders, your detergents. So we have a pretty exhaustive list of the categories that we really cover in the panel. To take you very briefly through the methodology of data collection, the process starts every month with a field briefing where interviewers are briefed about new launches, extensions, or pickup issues. This is then followed by the field work where experienced interviewers visit the households between the 25th to the 5th of every month to collect the data. Certain checks to maintain accuracy of data are observed at this very level also, where we have verification by wrappers, marking of products with signages to avoid any kind of double counting. Once the data is collected, it is then sent to our data analytics team, where again checks are made and the data is processed. Finally, at the end of each month, the data from the previous month is released and made available to our clients and also to researchers. So basically, there is a lag of about 1 month from the data collection to the data release. That really happens. This is the sample diary that we have for reference. Again, over here you can see that there are no questions that are really being asked to the housewife. It is just heads of different points that we need to cover. For example, the date of purchase, the brand name and the variant, the number of packs, and any kind of special offer that they might have got while buying the product. So this is how we do the the data collection from the diaries. These are some of the values or the key measures that we report. One of them is obviously going to be value, which is how much is being spent on a category. The second one is volumes, which is how much amount is being bought. The most important from a household panel perspective is penetration, which is the number of people or a percentage of people amongst the population that have bought a product or a brand. We also have purchase behavior measures like frequency of purchase, the number of packs being bought, number of occasions, which is the actual store trips, and finally we have the average consumption as well. So with this brief background of the panel, we can now get into the actual issue at hand and how we actually went about solving it for our clients. To give you a brief background, our client had launched its global best-selling biscuit brand in India in about 2011, and operating in the indulgent premium cream biscuit space, the brand had done quite well in its first 2 years, reaching a penetration of about 9%, which means that it reached about 9% households in urban India. Now, this was especially good because even some stalwarts in the same segment, which were there for not many years, were also at about the same amount of penetration. So that was a very good start that our client had in the cream biscuit space for sure. The issue, however, was that despite the launch of new flavors, multiple SKUs, and even some good marketing activities where they spent a lot of money, the brand penetration had remained stagnant. It just wasn't going anywhere from that 9%. So that was the key issue that they really faced. The key challenge for the brand that we foresaw, and we had mentioned this to the client and over the period of our analysis, was that firstly the brand operates in a non-habitual cream biscuit segment. So there are very few touch points that you get with the consumer. In fact, a cream biscuit is bought on an average 3 months in a year. So that's how low the frequency is. Secondly, they had to cope with a flirtatious buyer who prefers to change brands. So what we saw through our panel was that, people in creams, they generally tend to change the brand or tend to change the flavor which they purchase. So there's a low loyalty also which they had to contend with. Additionally, this buyer is influenced by a lot of excitement and innovation. So any brand that comes up with some kind of an innovation would really take off. A key example being Sunfeast Dream Cream. When they came up with their dual flavors, the brand really picked up very well. And finally, of course, there was a lot of stiff competition from already existing cream players. So keeping all this in mind, the key way that they needed to grow was through trials, and this was the key strategy that they had, for growing the brand listings. Now, keeping that in mind, where you want to get trials, our client invested in the post-trial promotion with an in-house brand. Now, another example of a post-trial promotion is, giving a vegetable atta noodle free with a Maggi. So this is something that our client had also done. This is just an example that I gave, but this is something similar to what our client did, where they gave their brand under consideration free with another in-house brand. Now, the post-trial promotion actually made a lot of sense if you really look at it. Firstly, because they didn't really have to go to another client, FMCG powerhouse. They had an in-house brand which they could use. This in-house brand was actually the most penetrated in its category in the north and west of the country. So automatically, you get a huge household base which will sample the brand under consideration. And finally, with a good product, effective sampling would have brought in those incremental households that they really wanted, to move from the 9% penetration that they were at. So what we did was, we analyzed the impact of the post-trial promotions that they did. In total, they had about 3 rounds when we did this analysis for them, and they had done this with multiple flavors of their biscuit offering. What we did was we analyzed the incremental penetration that the promotion brought, which was the primary objective of the entire exercise, was to bring in incremental penetration. Additionally, what we also did was we tried to calculate the ROI. So even if they got the incremental penetration, how much were they really spending to get that incremental penetration, and whether it was really a feasible amount. And finally, what we did was, we checked whether there was any better or more effective way in which they could spend their money and probably, get similar results or better results. What we got through our analysis, at the end was, we could actually recommend how they could have spent 75 million rupees better and more effectively, and, probably with even saving a few bucks here and there. The way that we did it is the next slide, which is, your process evaluation. What we did is we divided an entire time point into the pre-promo period, a promo period, and a post-promo period. In the pre-promo period, what we were looking at was, households that whether they bought the brand or did not buy the brand. In the promo period, we were obviously looking at, the effectiveness of promo, whether people were, what was the available base, how many people actually went and got the free pack of the biscuit. And finally, in the post-promo, we were looking at, whether people went on to, after getting the free sample, did they really go on to buy the biscuit again? So this is what we really looked at. The evaluation criteria was quite simple. We had two criteria. One was, had majority of the previous non-buying households, after taking the free sample, gone on to make a purchase. That was the first and most important criteria. And the second criteria was obviously return on investment, whether it made sense financially as well. This is one of the sample workings which we did for one of the rounds. This was then repeated for the other two rounds as well. So these are the numbers that we have put up for round one, where we see that the availer base, that is people who got the free biscuit pack, was about 405,000 households. Out of this, 83%, the promo was the only source of the brand, so they weren't really buying this. They were able to sample it. In the pre-promo period is what we wanted to look at. We wanted to see that, okay, a lot of people are getting the brand for free, but, if they had already bought the brand previously, it's again a waste. To give someone who's already using your brand for free is not the right target that we wanted. What we wanted was that 74%, which is previously did not buy the brand. And, we were bang on over there where we got the right target. 74% of the promo availer base had not bought the brand previously. So clearly, the sampling of the right households was happening to a large extent. Where the promo was failing was in the post-promo period, where, you wanted a lot of that 74% to go on to make a purchase, but like you can see, 67% after getting the brand for free actually moved out, and they did not make the purchase. And hence, that 7% is what was going to add to your incremental penetration, which is a low number, which you'll see that, when we actually calculated that 7% to the overall brand penetration, we calculated that, when the brand penetration with the post-trial, when they did the post-trial was about 9.93. And if we remove those 7% households, considering that, they did not sample the brand due to the promo, and then they did not go on to buy the brand, that 7% if we remove, you get a very small number, which is a very small difference of 0.04, because the difference between the two penetrations is 9.93 and 9.89. So you can clearly see that there was a very, very low incremental penetration that they were getting. So clearly the first criteria was not really being fulfilled. The second criteria was, the ROI, and over here again, we've used the retail prices over here. Obviously, I guess the client did not spend that much, but it was one of the ways to calculate it. So out of the 405,000 households that purchased the pack was priced at about 25 rupees at that point of time. And, considering the number of packs that each person got free, which was somewhere around in the tune of 23.6 million per round that the client was losing or, giving off free for sure. And in the post-promo, when we get 28,000 households who actually went on to repeat the brand, they bought different pack sizes and they bought different SKUs. So the total amount of money that they were getting back was just 1.4 million. So, that's really a fraction of the amount that they were putting in. So you can clearly see that the recovery of investment was just about 6%. So even over here, this strategy was not really proving to be very fruitful at all. When we did this across 4 rounds, so the same procedure was repeated for 3 rounds of the promotion that they did, we found that, on an aggregate, about 75 million was invested over 3 rounds. We got a very low incremental penetration. In each round, we got an incremental penetration of just 0.04% points. And again, the return that we got was just rupees 5 million. So clearly, it's not just a one round effect. In all 3 rounds, this promo wasn't really proving to, get much for the client. This is what we highlighted to the client, and we said that, probably there's a gap somewhere that, you need to fill. So what we saw was, the sampling was working. Like we said that, the forced trial didn't make sense. Sampling was working. You got about 21,000 households to sample the product over 3 rounds of the forced trial, which is great. On an average, about 70% of these households had not previously tried the brand. So, which is again, a positive that that we were actually going to the right households. Another thing that we also checked was the profile of these people, and there again we were bang on where the profile of the people who were availing the post promo was actually very similar to the brand profile, the existing buyer's brand profile. So, there also the promo did work. But where the promo was failing, and at the most important stage is where it was failing, where you were not getting those repeat purchases. So only 8% of your sampled households purchase the brand post the post trial. So clearly, the last stage, which is also the most important, is where it was failing. So though the post trial promotion made a lot of sense, clearly, it was not leading to purchase of the brand. So this is where we, told the client that, maybe this was not the most effective strategy to promote the brand, and corrective measures were required, and the faster you do those corrective measures, the more beneficial it would be for you. What we then did was, we looked at their different strategies where we saw, when they had taken a price cut, or, when they had gotten a new flavor, those kind of things. And the one more thing that we checked was their GRPs, which is their gross rating points on advertising campaigns. And we married that with our household penetration numbers for over 2 years. Gross rating points for is nothing but, it's the measure of assumed exposure to advertising campaigns calculated as reach into frequency. So for example, if your advertising campaign is reaching about 30% of your target audience and you expose them to 4 times to an advertising campaign, your GRPs would be about 120. So when we tracked this over 2 years, we found that the GRPs and the penetration actually had a very good correlation. You can clearly see that when your GRPs spike, so do your penetrations. And when the GRPs fall down, your penetrations also take a kind of a beating. So we try to then analyze that, okay, so what would have been the effect if you had spent money on your GRPs? And we got the data from the client. They were good enough to share their spending. What we did was we analyzed 3 spikes in GRPs and household penetrations in quarter 2 of 12, quarter 1 of 13, and quarter 3 of 13. And we found that on an average, if you get a 313 point incremental in GRP, it yields to a 0.4% point incremental in penetration. When we found, we also tried to calculate how much you need to spend to get those GRPs. And over here again, the client helps us out with their data. They gave us their data for about 3 years, which is where we got the average spend that they require for a GRP. And we found out that about 18.6 million rupees is required for an additional GRP of 313 points. So, if we put it all together, the amount of money that is required to do a post-trial promotion round versus getting the additional GRP, we clearly saw that, when you put in 24 million per round on a post-trial promotion, you get a very low incremental penetration of 0.04% points. And when you spend about 18.6 million for incremental GRPs, you actually end up getting a penetration of 0.4% points per round. So, clearly, using the household panel purchase database, you're actually able to track and optimize the spend on the promotion activities. What we suggested was, giving them savings of 22% in cost, and it was giving them 10 times the incremental penetration. So this is something that the client really appreciated, and they actually changed their strategy post that, and this is quite clear from the testimonial that we put up here, where the client is saying that they were actually inclined to spend more on the post-trial promotion, but through our study, they realized that maybe that's not the way to go, and they needed to put in their money in other places, and where TV how we really set out to solve the client query, and this yielded some really great results for us and for the client as well. So this is how we've done it, and this is my paper for today. Thank you very much.
Rajab, should we open it up for questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, I have first question for you, Sumit. To say that the fourth thing which was done was perhaps the main brand on which it was done.
The voice is breaking, Hemant. We can't hear you.
I told you the brand that they were riding on was most penetrated in. Again, it was a brand that was.
Mozammil, we lost Hemant when he was asking you the question because the voice was breaking. Could you come closer to the mic and then speak so that we can hear the question and after that the answer?
Sure. My question, Raja, was that when they selected the carrier brand, which is the brand on which the biscuit brand was promoted, my question was that wasn't the right vehicle on which to ride, and therefore maybe the vehicle was wrong, and therefore you got a very bad ROI in terms of sampling.
Yep.
Yeah, so actually the brand, I wouldn't say it was, I would say that it was the right brand. There are two reasons for that. Firstly, because the brand was not doing well in the north, and this brand that they were riding on had a very high penetration in the north. So automatically you get into households which are not even considering you. So that was one. The second thing is that the brand that they were riding on was also a brand which had a very similar demographic profile to the brand that they. It was a brand that was more towards SEC-A, SEC-B, towards your larger town classes. So, it was a perfect match for, in both ways. And this is what you would look for, getting into that. So, it was a perfect fit, what I would suggest.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yep.
Yeah. So, for any particular brand, if you see, GRPs will always be correlated to the household penetration irrespective of what you do. So my question to you is the correlation between GRP and household penetration higher for this particular brand vis-a-vis biscuits or premium biscuits in this case? And each particular company or should generally focus on GRPs and not on promotions, be it post-trial promotions or other promotions such as value or volume promotions?
Valid question. The only thing is, a post-trial is going to be that much. The post-trial is going to be that much more difficult because over here you're actually forcing people to buy something that they didn't want, right? So your only effectiveness would be if they make the purchase again. We did a very similar, and we did an analysis for their volume promo as well, and the volume promo actually did very well for them. So that is because people want to buy the brand and they're getting something extra with it. So the acceptance of the brand is already there. Here the problem is with post-trial, the acceptance is not there and you're trying to force them to get something, so it's that much more difficult. Your question with GRPs, it's again, we saw that, this particular brand had a very high correlation. It might not be the case with a Parle-G, it might not be the case with, a non-premium brand. And especially since this is a cream biscuit brand, it was that much more because, like I said, people respond very fast to the innovations and to any kind of excitement in this category. And that was why the GRPs were that much more correlated to the penetration of this particular brand. And that's why it made more sense. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Yeah?
Musamil, hi. This is Kiran from Bangalore. Hi. Can you hear me?
Can you be a bit louder, please?
Yeah, Musamil, this is Kiran here from Bangalore. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I had a query. One of the initial slides you were mentioning that, creams as a segment, generally the consumers are very flirtatious and, they tend to move within brands. Now, when you talk of, GRPs being pumped for this category or this segment rather, is there a possibility that, the penetrations might, jump while, GRPs are being pumped in? And post that, probably it's not stabilizing and, you might see, penetration levels coming down again. Was there anything done, any specific study done for this?
If you look at the GRP slide, we've considered that everything else has to be constant over there.
Okay.
We've seen in the past that, when you do any kind of activity, the brand does tend to spike and then it does come down a notch before, settling at a lower level. That happens with most of the... That is when you will see the spike. And, the brand would then come down to a lower level from the spike, but it would still be at a higher proportion to what it was at, at the pre-promo. That is when, your promo would be really bang on.
Okay, fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay, thanks, man.
So.
Any more questions?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Mr. Mill. This is Faraz from MRB Karachi. I would like to ask you two questions. One is about the case study and second one is about the panel.
Yeah, sure.
About the case study, my question is, that for measuring the marketing return over investment, were you considering the retail prices of biscuit SKUs which were available in the market? And second question about the panel is that how do you determine the quantity of your components? For example, this also happens that when the panelists place a diary and they start mentioning that, for example, that they have purchased the 5 rupees dhania or coriander powder. So how do we determine this into and how do we convert this into the quantity?
This is Hemant here. I'm sorry we couldn't get your questions very clearly. Could you break up into two parts and can you ask the first question? Could you repeat that, please?
Sure, Hemant. My first question was about case study. In that, I was asking that were we considering the market price of the biscuit SKUs for measuring the ROI?
Yeah, just a minute. What's the question?
Yeah, we were actually for both the ROIs. I mean, for the
Muzammil, can you please speak louder?
yeah. So we did take it at the retail price, which is something I mentioned during the presentation as well. So input cost and the expense cost, as well as the were both calculated at retail prices, which would obviously be different from what the client would have spent, I'm sure, but this is again just an indicator that, how much they would have spent and how much they would have got back at retail prices.
Okay. And my second question was about the panel. Then how do we consider the things and how do we convert these things into the quantity when the respondents mentioned that they have gotten, they have spent 10 rupees for coriander powder or for chili powder. How do we convert this into the quantity? Do we have to check with the market that how much quantity is this?
Muzammil, I think his question is, do you ask, because you don't collect the prices from. So just to answer your question on the panel, we do not collect the price paid by the consumer. What we collect is the information on whether the was on promotion or not, whether they got anything along with the pack without paying an additional tax. So what the analysis did was we code every promoted SKU as a separate part. We are able to segregate which are your regular non-promotion packs. To answer your question.
We are not hearing you clearly.
Hemant, we cannot hear you properly.
Okay. To answer your question, if you have understood it correctly, we do not collect the price paid by the consumer. We know the pack, the promoted pack or not, but that is the information that we collect from the consumer.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Non-promo pack. हमको भी नहीं समझ में आ रहा क्या बोल रहे हैं. Okay, there's one more question.
Yeah, so we clearly saw the client did 3 rounds of this particular activity. Was it possible to be more preemptive and in fact that after 1 round of this not working or 2 rounds of this not working out, for us to give a feedback to them and tell them that this is a bit clearly they 3 times the money they would have generally done. And would you therefore suggest that whenever such promos are done by the client, they should be done at a gap of 2 months or 3 months so that we can, sort of preempt what is happening in the market and then maybe they can go ahead with the next round. So what happened?
One of the problems with the strategy was that, they did these, like I told you, they did 3 rounds in 1 year. So there wasn't any gap between the promos. In fact, one of the analysis that we did for them was, to find out whether people were not buying the pack because they were always getting it free. That was one of the analysis that we actually did for them, but that was luckily not happening. So you're right on that they should have kept a space between the promotions. That is something that they should have done. But again, considering the numbers that they're getting, even if they kept space, it wouldn't really make a difference. The only difference it would have made was that, we could have probably analyzed it better. We could have analyzed it faster because we need a post promo to do anything. So, the promo, after the promo runs, we would need at least another 6 months before we can tell them whether it did well or no. So, I'm sure they wouldn't wait for 6 months to do the next round. So that is the only reason why, we couldn't tell them before that you need to stop this. Yeah.
Muzammil, Raja here again. I have one question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that close to about 1 million households were given the promo pack.
Yeah.
And out of that, about little over 70% of it actually got it for the first time, which means about 7 lakh households or so.
Right.
Now, this led to an increase in penetration of 0.04%, which I assume is, somewhere you removed some numbers, because 7 lakhs is not exactly 0.4%. I think you included only those who repeated, and is that what led to those who repeated is 0.04%? I just wanted to reconfirm this.
Right. So it's not those 7 lakh people who are actually giving you the incremental penetration, because for them to be added in penetration, they have to actually make a purchase of the brand.
Okay, I get your point. So the point you're making is, after getting the free promotion, if they went ahead and bought the pack on their own, only those numbers were taken into consideration for establishing whether it is incremental promotion. Correct?
That's right.
Right. Likewise, if it is like for like, if you want to really see on the other side, okay, they may have spent their money and then bought it for the first time after the television advertising, but how many of them actually repeated? Was that also 0.04%, or was that higher than that?
The actual one?
Repeat purchase.
That would be like for like.
That was the 0.04% were those incremental households who got the free promo pack as well as went and bought the brand once again.
I got you. The point is, I got you on that. The GRP led to 0.4%, the trial, which was, is compared with the 0.04%. But the 0.4% people who went ahead and then bought the pack, how many of them actually repeated?
Okay, so you're talking about those people who saw the advertisements and then went and purchased. So actually,
and then repeated, yeah.
So the loyalty for the brand itself is not very high. I mean, you have a loyalty of, I think, about between 20 to 30% for the brand at an overall level. So this is people who are buying it even without any kind of stipulation. But over here, the retention would be low. But again, over there, we've not really gone on to calculate that, because we were only trying to find out what is the incremental trials that they were getting, which is what they were struggling with. So they were really not looking at loyalty over here. They were looking at getting people for the first time in, and we've kept our analysis to that. But you have a valid point. The loyalty would not be very high. This I can tell you from the fact that because we worked with the brand for over 3 years, and at an overall level, the brand doesn't have a very high loyalty, which is why they are looking for trials.
Okay, I think at least I understood what you have done. That serves the purpose. My only point was probably the comparison may not be like for like, but that's okay. I mean, so long as people understand what they were doing at the client end, I think that will be perfectly all right. No questions from my side. Hemant, would you like to let the question answer session continue, or would you like to go with the next paper?
I think we've got interesting questions. I just want to add one last point to make. This is, our learnings across any indulgence category which is extremely heavy on flavors, taste, variety, reacts very similarly, which is that and a category like biscuits, premium biscuits, which are bought once in every 4 months. The role of television advertising to stimulate that, impulse purchase is extremely high, and this case actually validates or demonstrates the power of TV advertising for this kind of category. On that note, I'd like to, in keeping in interest of time, I'm going to close the Q&A here. If you have any more questions, feel free to write to Muzammil. I'm sure he'll be happy to address them. So thank you, Muzammil. The second